What's up guys? Today we're going to be showing you how super easy it is to change out an axle on this Kawasaki KRX 1000, and we're going to be upgrading to our Rhino 2.0 axle. Now as you can see, we already have a Rhino 2.0 in this machine, but the removal and installation of a factory axle to a Rhino axle is going to be identical. So we're just going to remove this axle and show you how to get it back installed. So let's get right to it. So the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and get a pair of side cuts, come right here to the cotter pin. We're just going to try to get it as straight as we possibly can. And just kind of tap it down. These are side cuts. Pull our cotter pin out. And we'll get our 30mm socket. And this is something you want to be careful of. We're working on the passenger side, so it is right-hand thread. On the driver's side, the rear axle nut will be left-hand thread. So you want to make sure that you keep that in mind. Once we have that removed, we're going to come right here. We're going to have two 14mm securing the brake caliper on. Go ahead and remove those. Make sure that you pull that brake caliper off, set it aside. We're going to go ahead and start removing our radius arm hardware. And we're doing this so our radius arm will pivot. We'll make sure we come here to this little cover. It'll have a Phillips head screw on the top as well as on the bottom and the side. Just going to go ahead and remove the hardware from the top as well as the bottom. We've already got our lower removed just for installation purposes. And a lot of times this one on the side here, the trailing arm's kind of hard to get out. You may end up stripping it. So what you can do is you can just take it, roll this out of the way for the time being. You're not going to tear anything up. It's all plastic, so it'll all bend and go right back into place. That's going to give us access to this bolt head for our last radius arm bolt. We'll just go ahead and remove it, just like that. I'm just going to grab a hold of this radius arm here. Go ahead and remove it. And remove our hardware. We'll go ahead and stick our hardware through there so our bushings don't fall out. And we'll just kind of pick up on our trailing arm. Remove our upper. And as you can see here, we've already removed our castle nut, so our hub's just wanting to slide right off. Don't lose this washer here. You can go ahead and remove your lower radius arm hardware. Let it slide out of the way. You can take your caliper, just kind of flip it over here out of the way for the time being. And you can kind of just pull your trailing arm out to the side, flip your actual knuckle straight out like that, plunge your axle straight in, and then pull straight out. So once you have your axle out, as you can see, you got your machine tore down a little bit here. You know, look at your bushings, kind of inspect them, look at your wheel bearings, make sure everything's a good functioning order. So we're gonna go ahead and install our axle. Again, we already had a Rhino 2.0 installed, so we removed a Rhino 2.0 and we're gonna be reinstalling the same axle. Nothing at all wrong with it. Most likely you're gonna be doing a stock axle, upgrading to a Rhino 2.0. It's exactly the same, like I said. So we're just gonna get our axle, and any of you all have watched the videos before, you know I like to put the C-clip opening facing down. We're gonna take it, put it on the transmission, get it lined up in the splines. You can kind of twist it around, and then just give it one abrupt shove right in. And then we'll kind of pull out on our trailing arm, kind of work this back in. Sometimes these will want to fight you just a little bit. There you go. Slides right in, no problem. So then what I like to do, just because I know everything's going to be in the right position, I'm going to take my brake caliper and lay it up there. Again, just a personal preference there, just to make sure I get it in the right orientation. Nothing's worse than getting something all put together and having to come back and change something. So we'll get our lower radius arm slid into place here. Let it lay down on that lower radius arm. And we'll get this lower radius arm, the one that's furthermost to the front of the machine. You kind of just got to work the trailing arm around. Get everything lined up. We'll get our upper radius arm bolt. Just got to kind of pick up on it. Go ahead and get our nuts started and all of our hardware. You want to grab your big shim that goes on the face of your wheel bearing. Grab your hub, your axle washer, and your castle nut. Get that rein up there. We just hit it until our cotter keyhole lined up. Got our key through. Grab a hold of it, bend it. There's that. Grab our brake caliper, and this can be a pain on these KRXs. Messing with the brake calipers is never a favorite of mine. The pads will want to jump out. So if you get to the point to where you cannot get it back together, which is very possible with this machine here, you can take this black Allen headed slider out. Just take it, set it aside, and then it'll rotate up like this, and you can pull it off this other slider. So once you have your adapter off and your pads are out of the way, you can take a pair of needle nose and you can just thread this all the way in, or if you have the tool for it, just like rear brakes on a car that has an emergency brake. Just gotta thread the piston in the caliper all the way. Once we have our pads lined up on the rotor, we've got both of our brake caliper bolts threaded and installed. We have our slider bolt that we previously removed. We're gonna go ahead and get it lined back up, and you wanna make sure that your boot down here is in good shape. So now we're just gonna go ahead and fully tighten our caliper. And then we will go ahead and fully tighten our slider pin bolt. You want to make sure you get this pretty tight here. You don't want to over tighten it, but you want to get it good and tight. Then we just go through, make sure all our radius arm hardware is tight, reinstall our cover here, obviously using the OEM hardware. So once all your hardware is reinstalled, everything's put back together and fully tightened, that's all there is to it to install SuperATV's Rhino 2.0 axle on this Kawasaki KRX 1000. For more information on these axles or any of SuperATV's great products, feel free to give us a call or check us out online. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.